Marcus stood at the edge of the prison yard, watching the routine chaos unfold before him. His eyes were narrow, filled with anger and resentment as he surveyed the scene. He had served his time, paid his dues, but the world seemed determined to never let him forget his past. The thick walls of prejudice surrounded him like an impenetrable fortress, trapping him in a world where opportunities were scarce and second chances were unheard of. Every day, Marcus bore the weight of his own racial hatred. Growing up in a neighborhood plagued by violence and discrimination, he had learned at an early age to blame the other, to see them as the enemy. But through the steel bars and barbed wire fences, he had been forced to confront his own prejudices. As he walked through the corridors of the prison, Marcus noticed a commotion ahead. In the midst of a tense altercation between inmates, a white prison guard stepped forward, blocking the blows that were about to rain down on a group of African American prisoners. The guard, Ethan, was risking his own safety to protect them. Marcus watched in disbelief as Ethan fought off their attackers, his face a mix of determination and compassion. In that moment, something shifted within Marcus. He saw beyond the color of Ethan's skin, beyond the uniform. That represented authority and oppression. He saw a man who was willing to put his life on the line for those he was supposed to control. Gazing into Ethan's eyes, Marcus saw a reflection of himself. He saw his own anger, his own struggle, but also a glimmer of humanity that he had long forgotten. It was a defining moment, a crack in the walls of prejudice that had held him captive for so long. Days turned into weeks and weeks turned into months. Marcus and Ethan developed an unlikely friendship, meeting in secret in the corners of the prison where no eyes could see. They shared stories, dreams, and fears, bridging the divide that society had imposed upon them. The day finally came when Marcus was released from prison. He walked out into a world that had not changed, a world that still judged him by the color of his skin and the mistakes of his past. But Marcus was determined to change that. Inspired by Ethan's compassion and sacrifice, he made it his mission to offer education and employment opportunities for ex-convicts. Marcus faced adversity at every turn, encountering closed doors and skeptical glances. But he refused to be deterred, fueled by the memory of Ethan's selflessness and the connection they had forged in the darkest corners of the prison. Months turned into years, and slowly but surely, Marcus began to chip away at the societal stereotypes that imprisoned ex-convicts. Through dedicated work and unwavering determination, he created a network of support and opportunity for those who had been left behind. Marcus's efforts did not go unnoticed. His story spread like wildfire, captivating the hearts and minds of those who had once turned a blind eye to the struggles of ex-convicts. People began to question their own prejudices, their own assumptions about the other. One day, as Marcus stood in front of an audience, sharing his journey, and urging them to see beyond the surface, he spotted a familiar face among the crowd. It was Ethan, the man who had shattered his own prejudices and set him on this path of redemption. They stood side by side, two men who had defied the confines of their past, breaking the barriers of prejudice that had once defined them. Marcus smiled, knowing that their friendship had sparked a ripple effect, inspiring countless others to question their own biases. In that moment, Marcus realized that true change did not come from pointing fingers or placing blame. It came from connection, empathy, and a willingness to see beyond preconceived notions. And as he stood there, Marcus knew that his journey had only just begun.